Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to start with a visual that kind of gets us going in a line of thinking. This is from Albert Einstein, and in this generation, who Albert Einstein was or his significance could have largely dissipated, eroded. A lot of people may not have an idea of who he was. But growing up for us, Albert Einstein was one of the smartest, if not the smartest person ever to exist, if you listen to the press releases, all right? But he did say some things that were, and he's the founder, discoverer of what is referred to as the theory of relativity, which was a theory, is a theory, and I'd even say today has been superseded in some regards. He looked for something called the unified field theory. However, the I'm presuming myself here. Let me put it there. Okay. However, this thought, we cannot solve our problems, with the same thinking that we used when we created them. This applies to everything. Whatever the problem is, and whatever in terms of the solution or prescribed solution, the thinking that created the problem is the causal thing. If we try to, you could say, attack the problem itself, addressing it itself without addressing the thinking, then you're simply going to recreate the situation, the problematic situation, let us say. So I've said all that to say, because it applies to virtually everything, it includes everything from our health, our relationships, our situations financially, our home situation, all these things. What works in our life, what don't work, or what appears not to work. Now, the truth is, if we got a lot of things that aren't working in our life, whatever they are, the truth is that they are working, except that they are the perfect result of how we think and how we behave accordingly. So with all that said, this particular jaunt is going to be associated with our thinking and our problems, to the extent that we have it, with this thing called money. I like to say this thing called money because we haven't really thought about money that much, because we have only had, first of all, we have had a system that has psychologically conditioned us to think with great value about money and things, and perhaps not as much value about such things as respect, caring for, not only caring for others, but caring for ourselves, truth. Those things can be set aside if the price is right, okay, in the way we've come to think about things. So there's a price to be paid for that, and the society that we have today, the social order or disorder, as the case may be, the social harmony or discord, as the case may be, is a direct result of the types of thinking that we have cultivated and passed on. And so we have a bifurcated society, bifurcated in the sense of divided, so to speak. You've got these we have groupism happening, where there's the group that's got the stuff, there's the group that don't have the stuff, and oftentimes you've got this dynamic between them of perhaps anxiety on one side, anxiousness or anger on another side. You got all this stuff happening, as opposed to unity, unanimity, cooperation, many other things. And so as it relates to money, there's so many things that we are I think, an agreement that we want to fix in our life, fix in our society, that we help each other to actually improve the quality of their life, quality of their environments, and that includes the health, that certainly includes the harmony. You know, some people, someone's, and some group of people have this thing on the word safety, and I just have to say they uh, misused the term because they've justified a lot of acts in the interest of safety that are actually unsafe. And yet, a lot of bright minds out there aren't saying anything about it. So, what I'd like to do, and where I'm becoming more mindful of the passage of time, I have done videos on Co-op Crowd, and this is part of that. This is going to be about Co-op Crowd as well, in terms of what it does and what purpose, what place it can hold, does hold in the question about, or the thinking that we're using to create the situation we have, because we've got to be willing to change our thinking in order to, I'll say, succeed with Co-op Crowd. Co-op Crowd is, I'd say, the most efficient in terms of the energy output, in terms of the activities being asked for, and in terms of the results that you get that's returned for the energy and the activity. There's nothing better than that. And yet, it's almost too good to be true. It's the way it's thought of. So that's one of the first parts of thinking. You got to realize this isn't too good to be true. This is possible, and it is possible for anyone to do if they do the steps that have been outlined. And have I done them yet? I'm in the process of doing. This is my way of doing those steps to realize those outcomes, new outcomes. And basically, if you do the same thing, you will realize the same thing too. Now, the thing that actually was of some, uh, the thing that was of interest and what got me started with this today was a an email that I received, and that email came from Capital One. I happen to have a Capital One card, and as such, that I get this. Hey, Adam, there's a $100 referral bonus with your name on it. So essentially, if I refer a person to get a Capital One card, to apply for and receive it, a Quicksilver card, I'll get $100. Okay. Not only that, of course, that's if they are approved. Now they can enjoy 1.5% cash back, as much as you do, plus a 200 cash bonus if they spend $500 within 3 months, all with $0 annual fee. Now, so $100 per referral, and also a $200 cash bonus if they spend $500 in the first 3 months. So, is this going to sound familiar? Capital One is willing to pay me up to $500 to refer people to apply for the card and for them to accept. It's worth $100 a piece for them to give to me to do that. Now, that's the beginning and end of it. Let's say I max all that out. I make $500. Let's say they made those expenditures in the first 3 months. I get $200 more. That's $1,000 total. 200 times 5. So I could get $1,500 in the course of 3 months' time if I do that. And then from there, I'm done as far as, or Capital One is done as far as giving me any regard, so to speak, for having brought that to them. In the process, though, they've received another customer who is now going on the dole for whatever their credit limit is and the interest rates that they will agree to pay, because they'll pay 25% per year or per whatever time it is, uh, on the balance that they build up, because it's a credit account. It's a we call it debit cards. When you pay with your own, it's called a debit card, as though it's a debt. But actually, the credit card is like when you're using the other's money and you owe, but that's called credit. It's really interesting how language is done. Point I'm making here is that this is a standard way of doing business in terms of referrals. And there is a limit to, I mean, they put a small spiff out, and this is not just Capital One. I'm using them right now as an example because I got the email, and I do use the card from time to time. So it's not a knock against them. It's just used to contrast that to Co-op Crowd and what it does. So Co-op Crowd is a platform that is also set up where it will invite members to join and actually put an amount up to join, for one thing. And as I've mentioned, it's either around $100 or around $400. Let's just put it that way. But what they will be asked to do in conjunction with that, they join, you're part of the system, at which point in time you will receive 3 tokens. The tokenomics of this all we'll talk about, but your goal basically is to invite 3 people to join who do the same thing you do. I just watched an AMA on Drip, which is another, it's an investment platform, and I say that is what it is as compared and contrast to what Co-op Crowd is, because it's a platform I'm involved in that I really love, for one thing, but this is my Drip interface. However, I have put a lot of time and effort and energy into Drip, and I am grateful for it in terms of what it has returned back to me. But it's really interesting that the founder of Co-op Crowd, David Rosen, in their last call, and I did not record it, because if I record it, I just play it, because he clearly had seen some references I had made to Drip before, because it's a one where you're putting your funds into the platform, and then your funds are there. You're bringing liquidity to the platform, and your money is the liquidity. So you put your funds into Drip, at which point in time those funds are locked, and yet it then returns to you 1% per day of based on your principal and that you put in. And you have the option, when you get that 1% a day, it's 365, 7 days a week, and that 1% is up to 3.65 times what you put in. In other words, over a course of 1 year, you could put this in, 10,000 in the course of 1 year at and you're buying drip. So essentially, whatever drip you can get for that particular amount on that day, the system is going to pay you back 1%, 3.65 times what you acquired in the beginning. And that becomes available after 24 hours. So, for example, in this case, I have now 3,600 drip, and at 1%, that means 36 drip a day it will pay me back. And at right now, in the $6 or so range per drip in terms of the value of each one, it's basically paying me back over $200 a day. However, in value, is only giving me back 36.2 drip in every 24 hours. However, the other change and opportunity I have is I can take it out and use it if I need to, or I can roll it back over. The first is by claiming, by taking it out. The second is by hydrating, as it's called, and that's compounding. That rolls that amount over back into my amount of deposits, at which point in time my principal grows and the clock continues to move sideways, so to speak. So my time is not diminished, but my principal is increased. The founder of Co-op Crowd, in comparison to Co-op Crowd, what you are doing is you're putting a flat amount in. Again, either $100. Everyone puts in the basic $100. You have the optional to put in $400, which includes that 100 plus an additional 300 some odd dollars. But that additional monies will provide you with returns that the basic one will provide you with, but it will provide you with a second return that's 10 times the basic. It does this coincident, same time. So when you do this, when new members join, you receive your donations. So essentially, you're putting funds into the system. You're donating to 10 other members. Okay, let's just say 10 other members. They can use it however they want. The thing is, your other thing that you're doing is you're sending your tokens out to 3 other people who will do the same thing. So in other words, you are providing liquidity to the Co-op Crowd system. The people that you invite are bringing liquidity as well. The liquidity that you bring is being distributed to 10 people, starting with the person that invited you and 9 others. Now, there are more beyond, and these are people that are in a lineage. That's one of the things that these tokens actually create and track and maintain, is that it tracks the relationships. And so what you're basically doing is when you have your 3 who have done the same thing, you've received and will have received funds from that. When you got your 3, you've actually essentially got your money back. When your 3 that you have sent out, you've sent out 3 tokens, and now to those people who have bought 3 tokens, and now they've done the same thing that you did. And when that occurs, you are now in a place where you don't come out of your pocket at all again, because when they do the same thing, the 3 people that they invited, now you've got 9 people putting 3 out. You have 27 people doing it. And then there is a progression. The funds do not exist within Co-op Crowd until the member brings them to it. So each member is bringing liquidity, and when they bring liquidity, they receive. When a new member activates, the one who invited them receives. And what the Co-op Crowd system is doing is creating a literal matrix, 3 by 10, that goes 10 generations deep, and that encompasses 88,572 people. And what happens is that now on the 10th level, with 59,049 people, you're getting micro donations, less than $1 a piece, from those that are still pointed to you. And yet they are ground zero in their own activity of starting this. So beyond that, you won't be involved with what they're doing. And yet, because they are continuing, everyone is bringing liquidity to the system. That is how the system sustains. There are videos, I don't know if there are any videos, but there certainly are some reports on Co-op Crowd that are I'll say they're not derogatory. They cast doubt. There's one, let's see, co-op crowd. What was the review? Let's try that. Let's see. Here's right off the bat. Online, whatever this is, Wealth Chronicles. Review, another gifting scam. And so this is one. There's another. I'll tell you, co-op crowd this is a different animal. And you will find, if you look for it, there are people who will find these things, and yet they will talk about these things. This is a detailed review of what it does. They will simply cast doubts and aspersions about what it is, about the developer, etc. At first, no retail products. And so what? These are some of the things that will come out. What co-op crowd does, when there are emergencies, and gosh, we've certainly had emergencies here. Some people have emergencies going on at any time. And then we start talking about the environmental emergencies and others. And what happens? You're being asked for funds. You're not being even asked to take a product or anything else. You're being asked by some organization who is paid money to run those ads on TV. The networks didn't take a pass on this because this was so noteworthy or so important and so beneficial. They sold that time, and these people are asking for your funds and for you not to even expect anything in return. So the reasons why some of these sites will present these aspersions, so to speak, are such that this system, which is not asking for much, but it is responding, it is paying people to literally connect their own dots and to cooperate with each other. It's actually, and frankly, you're not being asked to pull or divert much out of your own, bag, so to speak. But what you can get as a result is just amazing. So I've done a video on what you can get, how much, but I wanted to just simply show that asking for referrals, paying for referrals is not unusual. Your major companies are doing it, and it's being done all the time. Coinbase, you can name virtually anyone, and they're offering something to bring customers in. And there's no limit, to how many. They're always looking for more. Co-op crowd is only asking you or challenging you or rewarding you. It's not to say only rewarding you, but the minimum is for 3 people. You can get more, you can invite more. But the cool thing about this, for every member that succeeds in getting 3 people to join and who turns around and does the same thing, every member will get the same reward. They will have the same amount. The distributions will be the same for each of those members, and therefore co-op crowd helps each member create what is referred to as predictable, ongoing, passive income. The initial time of joining, of funding, of receiving your tokens, and disbursement, inviting others is what I mean when I say disbursement. That's your active work. At which point in time, the people that you invited, so to speak, that joined, they do the same thing. But when they have succeeded in doing the same thing, your work is essentially done. However, the income that you get because of people continuing to do it beyond your first 2 generations. They're doing it on their own. You know, at one point in time, first you had 9 people, then you'd have 27 people, including the first 12, you know. So you got 12 people, then you got 27 new people doing this, then you got 81 new people doing it, then you got 243 more people doing this. And when that happens, it is still, the system is funneling because they are connected to you in the system, informationally into the system. It's a certain share of what they bring in comes to you, all the way down to 10 generations. And so the amounts are significant and they're ongoing, and yes, they're even predictable. So this is, in fact, much different from drip. As wonderful as drip is, and this just doesn't mean for me it's either or. I'm a both and kind of guy. I'm not going to get rid of drip because of this, but in comparison, not only to drip, I just watched a video, an interview with a guy who is about to launch a crypto project called Zen Crypto, and the Zen is spelled with an X, Xen. And essentially, there'll be no value whatsoever to it. It will be, anyone can mint the coin, and you can get establish a position where you're holding this coin. And then he figures over the course of about 8 years, there will be some kind of adoption and some kind of building up because people will have it, and then some people are going to sell the coin and do those things, and then that's going to create this entire economy. That's his vision. And he's talking about having somebody, okay, if you put 10,000 in and then you stake it, you lock it up. And he said he's had like 1,500 people have signed, they're logged on and they're ready to jump in and drop their coins in and go through this process. And there's all this excitement about what's going to happen. They're all set for this thing to happen down the road, which has no precedence whatsoever. And I mean, it's a fresh idea, and I'm not to say that it will or won't work. That's not even the point. My point here relative to Co-op Crowd is that it's either $100 or $400, and that's if you want X, or if you want X plus 10X. That's really what it's about. And you fund it. I've done a video on how to fund, but we'll get into that. Right now, it's about just realizing what it can produce for you. And yet, the developer of Drip, for example, Forex Shark, I totally respect this guy. I love what he has done. I love how he thinks. He is real clear on retaining his anonymity. So he doesn't present himself, but his energy is there. His vision he's clear and not say concise per se. He's comprehensive in how he has thought about this and the energy he has put behind Drip. And the fact that that system, which has existed now for a year, over a year, it was introduced in April sometime of 2021, and I got in September. It has sustained the amount that I put in, which is somewhat equal to what I would be putting in and have put into Co-op Crowd. It has returned quite a bit more, and it continues to grow. Yet, so he's anonymous. David Rosen, the developer behind the instigator, whatever you want to say, of Co-op Crowd, he is visible. He is also vocal. He is present.
So I created my first system in 2001. When I created that system, I thought that it would be good for about 5% of the population. We did great. In our first 3 months, we had 44,000 people in over 50 countries. but I knew I could do better. So I kept working on that system. I made it better. And to date, that original system that changed names a couple of times has helped 1.1 million people around the world. It works. Many, many people have benefited from that system. So you think to yourself, well, David, if you created a system that that helped 1.1 million people around the world in 172 countries, why are you still working? Well, because we needed to do better. I needed a system that could help 100% of you. This system that you're going to hear about today can help 100% of you. And it's just 3 simple doable steps that we're going to go over. So no matter where you are right now, I want you to understand that we're here, all of us are here for one purpose. And that is to help you to create an ongoing residual income, and I skipped one of the most important points, why I kept building the system and created a new system now with Co-op Crowd. The last system that I created, you could receive $100,000 in a week. You could receive $1 million. But it didn't have a predictable income. So you get $100,000 this week, but you might go six weeks or 6 months without getting any more money. So we needed something that had a predictable income, something that you could count on, something that could replace that lost job that you had, something that could pay your monthly bills every single month, something that you knew that every day you had access to money.
And his picture gets associated with images and articles that cast aspersions on his product, because in fact he's been in the crowdfunding sector. In fact, he started it. He had some project 20 years ago in 2001, I believe, where the concept of crowdfunding was he started. And this is a man who has himself been homeless, and he can tell a story much better than I can. However, in the presentations, you can see that in Toronto, where he's based, they're doing public events, and it is clear this is not some type of fly-by-night thing. The other part of it is that this system that he developed has morphed, he has enhanced it over the years, and Co-op Crowd, as it exists right now, is around a year in existence. The thinking, I guess that's where I came in, talking about the thinking that one does, that we can't change things by thinking the way we can't solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. Drip is an example of different thinking. Co-op Crowd is an example of different thinking. And it's providing different reactions, responses, different returns on the investment that people are making. Both of which, before a drip, I have to say, our society has been, I'd say, ground down. Our expectations of protection of the value, not only of our money, but of our time and our effort, has been ground down, either from the standpoint of attempting to, I want to say, keep the exchange, that whole idea of buying low and selling high. Well, when you go for a job, you essentially someone is buying, so to speak, your time and your effort, your energy. That's all based on a way of thinking which is built into our education system. We are told early in life that we need to prepare ourselves to be evaluated by someone so that we can get a job. Okay? Not create wealth for ourselves, not to innovate, not to figure out ways to improve the quality of our life or the true health and well-being of life in our neighborhoods or in our societies. You know, we cultivate a concept of lack, of not having enough, and for reasons that are really not based on any truth. We start thinking these ways, and when we adopt those ways of thinking, we then succeed in creating just the type of outcome we thought of. So all the various isms that we go through, that we experience, they're all associated with these things to maintain some sense of bifurcation, of divisiveness between people, and what I also would call groupism. So because our expectations are low, because our options have also been non-existent as far as money or monetary or value systems were concerned up until the introduction of Bitcoin, then what we call inflation was truly deflation. We just inverted the name. Oh, it's inflation. No, it's a deflation of the value of your money, of what you work so hard for, or even the idea that you have to exchange your time and your effort for it. So co-op crowd is something. First of all, drip is a major improvement over what we have had, especially over the last few years, as the crypto space has come from under the shadows where Bitcoin could not be dismissed anymore. And then Ethereum came out, and the developer of Ethereum made these smart contracts. That's innovation. And it made so many other things possible. And other blockchains have now been created. And all these various on-ramps and infrastructure has been created. And yet much of society has been sitting on the sidelines, still listening to people who have been thinking, whose thinking has not changed. And so people have been used to still getting very little from their funds. I mean, heck, a high yielding certificate of deposit today may be 2% a year. So 1% a day with a drip, and then on top of it, drip has referral codes. You can't get into drip unless you have what's called a buddy link from someone who's already in it, a referral link. So here we have the coming together again. You know, you have to get a referral link to join drip. And every time, I have to even say this, I have done much of my, I'll do this. I have done much of my drip journey on my own. And that would be considered passive because I have not been inviting people to join. Okay? But let me show you this. I have 3 people have joined. So I have directly with me, and under those 3 more people have come underneath them on those recommendations. Well, so I have received today now 100 drip as a function of their hydrating. Okay, that's been really nice. But I've been in this for a year, doing this on my own, not, too concerned or worried about those things. I started with 63 drip. It was about 300 some odd dollars, and I started with about 63 drip. And so at the beginning, it was producing 0.63 drip a day. That 24 hours later, I had 6/10 of a drip available to me. And at that time, the price was around what it is now. So here I'm sitting a year and some months later, because I started in September of 2021. This is now October 2022. I've got 3,600 drip. And that's from compounding. That's hitting the hydrate button. And every time I hydrate it, going from 63 to 3,600, and I'm on my way up. My goal is 100,000. It wouldn't be this. My goal is 27,000, because at 27,000 that maxes your payout from here to 100,000. At which point in time you will not be able to hydrate anymore, and therefore at 100,000 payout, it will pay you back. The maximum payout is 100,000, but to get to that maximum payout, which is 3.65 times what you get, you need 27,000 here. So 27,000 here to get the maximum of 100,000 payout basically means you're making about 275 or whatever that number is drip a day. Now you won't be able to hydrate that. You'd have to claim it. And well, when you take 275 times, even at today's prices, 275 times, let's say 6.5, 1,787 bucks a day. That ain't bad. And you can put some of that into a new wallet and keep going. You simply would max out. I mean, that's where you max out. So I'm over 10% of the way of that, and my drip referral link is below. Okay, we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But my point is this: here is what you can do with referrals, and Co-op Crowd is only seeking and inviting each member to bring in 3 referrals, period. Look at here, I got 3 referrals here in Drip, and that's been nice. Co-op Crowd for 3 referrals will go way beyond that, and everyone can do it. However, we've got to be willing to get beyond that idea that it's difficult or it's too good to be true or whatever. Okay, the system works. I will, yeah, time so flies when I start doing this, and we'll just work that out. But that's what I wanted to share. We're doing referrals. We're asking the same amount for everyone, and everyone, I want to say wins, everyone receives amazing returns. This is not like anything else. This is not an investment type of thing. This is not that. This is an investment in a different way of thinking, a different level of thinking, and a different level of potential. We talk about the power of cooperation. This is it. When you set your differences aside and you come together for a common goal and a common benefit, it's just amazing. So with that, there you go. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. We will talk some more, I want to say, eclectic and existential stuff. I've been listening to some of my, or watching some of my previous videos. I have a lot of videos that were taken down on my original YouTube channel, and just some super, to me at least, conversation. Now, they're conversations, they're monologues. I'm sitting there just talking, but they are thought-provoking in a good way, at least I think. So we're going to talk more about that. I'm going to be putting those things up again somewhere soon. I'm not sure they'll be on YouTube, but I'll let you know. Till next time, thank you again for listening, for considering these, certainly for joining Co-op Crowd. And till next time, peace, be well, be prosperous.